Great. Great. So thanks everyone for joining us. This is our first of its kind hybrid RiverSmart Homes information session. And we have partners here from DOEE, the Alliance, and Casey Trees as well. So thanks everyone for joining us both in person and virtually. All right, so just really quickly, we're going to be covering a lot these next couple hours. We're going to have introductions for the different partners that are here. We're going to have an overview of the RiverSmart Homes program, and then also talk about what is stormwater, and then go into the different stormwater practices that are available through the RiverSmart Homes program. And we'll also have a little testimonial from one of our RiverSmart Homes ambassadors. And in between there, you can see we will have time for some questions. And realizing it's a long presentation, we will have a 10-minute break in there as well. Great. I'm going to turn it over to Brendan from DOEE.
Right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Brendan Durkin. I am an environmental protection specialist with the DC Department of Energy and Environment. The mission of the department is to improve the quality of life for both residents and our natural inhabitants in the nation's capital. We do this by protecting and restoring the environment, conserving those natural resources and habitats, mitigating pollution, reducing pollution in not only our air, our water, and our watershed, increasing access to clean and renewable energy sources. And we're also educating the public, as we're doing today, on ways to secure a more sustainable future in the district. So this is the RiverSmart Homes program structure. You can see that RiverSmart Homes is a program under the umbrella of DOEE. The RiverSmart Homes team is a series of environmental protection specialists, just like myself, who work for DOEE. And we issue grants to support this program. And our nonprofit partners, Casey Trees and the Alliance for the Chesapeake Bay, then use that grant funding to complete the aims of the program. In this case, to reduce stormwater from leaving residential properties and entering into the storm sewer system. And with our partner, the Alliance for the Chesapeake Bay, we're connecting residents to our RiverSmart Homes contractors, which are businesses that operate in the district that do things like install rain barrels or native plant landscapes. I'm going to hand this over to Carly.
Hi, everybody. My name is Carly. I work for the Alliance for the Chesapeake Bay, and I'm just going to do a quick intro to who we are if you aren't familiar, and then I will make another appearance later in the presentation. The Alliance for the Chesapeake Bay is the nonprofit partner that runs a few of the programs for RiverSmart Homes. Our mission is to bring together communities, companies, and conservationists to improve the lands and waters of the Chesapeake Bay watershed. We are headquartered in Annapolis, Maryland, and then we have 3 regional offices in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Richmond, Virginia, and right here in Washington, D.C. And the RiverSmart programs that we coordinate with DOEE are rain gardens, BayScapes, rain barrels, permeable pavement and revegetation, and impervious surface removal. All right, hand it over to Casey Trees.
Hey, thank you for that. Hello, everybody. My name is Liam Milosevic, and I'm the managing arborist at Casey Trees, which is a tree planting nonprofit based in Brooklyn, DC. And our mission is to restore, enhance, and protect DC's tree canopy. And we also have a farm in Berryville, Virginia. And essentially, Casey Trees we'll provide shade trees for your home. We provide the tree and the planting.
Okay. So RiverSmart Homes recently developed a story map to provide some information overall for the program and what it offers. And you can find this on our webpage, and we're also going to run through it right here. So what is RiverSmart Homes? RiverSmart Homes is the District of Columbia's residential stormwater management program. And it is a program that offers district residents and homeowners incentives to reduce stormwater runoff from their properties. To get started with, homeowners apply for this program voluntarily. They receive a stormwater assessment to determine their eligibility for the program's offerings. The program offers both technical assistance to residents to install these practices, as well as some financial incentives to install one or more of these features. These are, we're talking about rain barrels, rain gardens, BayScapes, shade trees, and impervious surface removal and permeable paver installation. This takes place all across the city, and it has since 2008. We've had over 20,000 installations. This is a map that shows where those installations are scattered across the city. And why is it important? Why is it an issue? This is a program that's catered to all district residents in all 8 wards, because this is an issue all across the district. You can see here in an average rainstorm like we're experiencing today, water strikes a hard surface, an impervious surface like a sidewalk or a roadway. And when it does that, that water can't soak into the ground. It's directed to the nearest storm sewer system. And along the way, it's picking up everything that it passes along the way, from debris off of your roof to pet waste or fertilizers to garbage, pollutants, oils in the street. That water is picking up those pollutants and carrying it into our storm sewer system, which can ultimately end up in our rivers. So, ooh, that's gross. That stuff is ending up in our watershed, and the goal of this program is to reduce it. The primary issue we're dealing with, impervious surfaces, prevent water from naturally soaking into the ground. So examples of that are parking lots, but it's also, we're talking about sidewalks and roadways, and from a residential perspective, your roof or your driveway or your parking pad or your patio. When the rain hits that, it's running along the surface until it reaches the storm drain. And you can see in this photo, it's carrying with it some dirt and some sediment into the sewer system. Those large volumes of stormwater quickly overwhelm our sewer system, and the system is designed to discharge and overflow into whatever waterway you're nearby, whether that's the Potomac River, Rock Creek, the Anacostia River, or Oxen Run. So what do we do to help? What can we do? What can we offer here? RiverSmart Homes is helping to install features that reduce this stormwater runoff: the rain barrels, shade trees, rain gardens, BayScapes, and permeable pavers. The rain barrel, what's that? A rain barrel is essentially a container that attaches to your downspout. It captures water as it's coming off of your roof, and it holds it in this container where it can be safely discharged after it stops raining. That harvested water can be used for a later use, whether that's watering your lawn or watering a garden, maybe watering a shade tree that you install through this program. Folks also use it to wash their cars or whatever you need gray water to do on your property. We also offer an installation known as rain gardens. These are engineered gardens that are designed to receive water from a downspout or some other impervious area, so from your roof or from a patio. It's a landscape that's specifically designed to absorb that water and utilizing native plants to get that water into the ground. Connecting the downspout directs that water away from your home's foundation and directs it into the ground. This is actually our most effective way of getting water out of the sewers and getting it into the ground. BayScapes are are our word for Chesapeake Bay native landscaping. These are native plant gardens that replace things like lawns with native plants that are deeper rooted. They improve how water infiltrates into the ground. So you maybe have seen water get very saturated in your lawn, in your backyard. Having deeper rooted native plants helps to get that water deeper into the ground, so it's not sitting there at the surface. These deep roots do more than just absorb stormwater or improve infiltration. They're also going to reduce erosion, and they can be, with those deeper roots, more drought tolerant than your turf grass or ornamental grass species. This is one of the benefits of planting native. These plants are adapted to the weather and the climate that we experience here in Washington, D.C. Shade trees are large trees with widespread canopies. On the smaller side, they top out at around 20 to 25 feet tall. But these trees help to intercept water before it strikes an impervious area like a sidewalk or a patio. They help to infiltrate that water into the ground. And then, of course, we all know that trees like to drink water. So trees are ultimately taking that water out of the ground and putting it back into the air, working like nature's air conditioning units. These are some common examples of trees that we see all over the district. We have oaks dropping their acorns right now. Southern magnolia puts on a big white blossom in the middle of the summertime. We also offer a rebate for the removal of an impervious area like a parking pad or a patio, and replacement either with a permeable paver system or revegetation, turning that space back into yard space. Permeable pavers are these self-draining tiles that allow water to seep into the ground rather than running downhill and into the nearest storm drain. You can see there's large gaps in between each one of these bricks or pavers. Water strikes the paver, it slides over to that gap, and then down into a rocky chamber where it can infiltrate into the ground. These are commonly applied in areas where you need to park a car, or you already have an existing patio and you want to replace it with something that helps to get water into the ground. In an average rainstorm, we're capturing hundreds of gallons of water. Using each one of these practices. So whether you install one or you install them all, you're doing a great service to the district's watershed. You can see from this chart that rain gardens, I mentioned, they're one of our most effective practices, and permeable pavers are right up there, capturing more than 340 gallons of water. But our rain barrels are also doing a fabulous job capturing that gallonage, and shade trees as well. BayScapes are a little less effective at getting that water into the ground, but we still see them as valuable installations, not only for stormwater management and controlling for erosion, but also improving our native plant habitats and improving areas for other residents of the district, like our insects, our birds, and our mammals. You can see, again, our completed projects. Since 2008, we've installed more than 7,000 rain barrels, 1,000 rain gardens, 3,000 BayScapes, and 8,000 shade trees, as well as almost 700 permeable paver installations all across the city. So how does the program work? I mentioned you get started by receiving an assessment. That assessment results in a report, and that report declares your eligibility to participate in the program, whether your property is eligible for rain barrels, rain gardens, BayScapes, or shade trees. For a one-time co-payment, you can have these installations done. The rain barrels are $50 co-payment per barrel. There's a limit to 2 barrels per property. The rain gardens and BayScapes can be installed each for a $100 co-payment, but there's a limit to 2 landscaping installations to your property. And shade trees, we've waived the co-payment for that program. So you can have as many shade trees as you need to have installed free of charge to you. There's another side of the program called our rebate program, where residents go through the process of installing these practices on their own and then applying to receive a rebate. And we offer rebates for rain barrels, rain gardens, shade trees, and permeable pavers or revegetating, removing an impervious surface and installing an area where water can get into the ground. Our rebate amount is $2 per gallon stored for a rain barrel capacity with a maximum rebate of $1,000. So a 50-gallon rain barrel at $2 per gallon will yield a $100 rebate. Rain gardens, we rebate an amount of $3 per square foot treated. That is, if you have a 400 square foot roof that's draining to your downspout, at $3 per square foot, you can be eligible for a $1,200 rebate. Shade trees will rebate you to install shade trees up to $100, depending on the size of the tree. And we'll get into some more details about permeable pavers and revegetation. But we've previously issued rebates for permeable pavers at $10 per square foot converted, and for revegetating, $5 per square foot converted into revegetation. I should note this is a rebate that's only available for homes that are serviced by what's called the MS4, the Municipal Separate Storm Sewer Shed, or if the property is located in Ward 7 and 8. In the central third of DC, you're serviced by what's called the Combined Sewer System area, and those properties are not eligible for this rebate. There is a maximum rebate of $4,000 per property. So how do we apply for the program? So these are the steps to becoming a RiverSmart Homes homeowner, making your home RiverSmart. You start by signing up. It's been about a 4-month process to be assigned to one of our DOEE staff, an assessor such as myself, an environmental protection specialist, will come out. We'll talk to you about the program, answer any questions you may have about the program, and assess your property. From there, once the assessment is complete, it can take about a month to receive your report. And that report, as I mentioned, declares your eligibilities to participate in the program. From there, you need to tell the DOEE assessor what installations you're interested in having. Now, the program's totally voluntary. So you take the things that you'd like to have installed, you leave the stuff you don't want to have installed, and there's no expiration to your report. So you can decide if you want shade trees this year and rain barrels in several years down the line. You don't need to apply and have your property reassessed. Once you have your report in hand, you have your eligibilities. From there, it can be 6 months before you have an installation completed. This will depend on the type of installation you're requesting, whether that's rain barrels or landscaping or shade trees. So it'll depend on what the installation you're requesting is, but it can be anywhere between 1 to 6 months to get that project started on getting into the ground. Okay. From here, we have an example of a sample assessment report. This is an example of what you would receive once you've had your assessment completed. It mentions where your property is located, including your address, your ward, and your storm sewer system. In this case, we're in the MS4. It recommends the site improvements, rain barrels, shade trees, and bayscapes. Unfortunately, not every property is eligible for permeable pavers or rain gardens. It'll give you some site information about your property. How many downspouts were we able to identify? Where are those downspouts located? What is the size and shape of your downspout? This is all information that's useful to you as well as to our installers.
I'm Jordan Goknow. I work with the Alliance to Chesapeake Bay. I'm their DC Green Infrastructure Projects Manager. A couple of these features. So we offer a number of things through RiverSmart Homes, including rain gardens, bayscapes, shade trees, rain barrels, and pervious pavers. I'm going to specifically focus on the rain gardens. Then we'll hand it off to the rest of the team for the other practices. That is a rain garden. So a rain garden is a bowl-shaped garden. It's designed to capture and infiltrate stormwater as it enters the garden. I love this diagram because it gives a really good idea of what these gardens should look like. You can see there's a 6-inch ponding depth here where water will fill up the garden as it enters. 18 inches of bioretention mix. That's a good mix of soil where the roots of these native plants can dig right in and soak up the water as it enters. We'll go over the rest of the pieces later, but that's a good diagram to look at. As Brendan said, this is one of the most effective pieces of stormwater management. That's because it treats water as it enters. So as water is entering, it is infiltrating, making room for more water. These plants are soaking up water as water is coming in. It can hold a ton of water, and they're variable. You can make them bigger or smaller depending on the situation. There are a ton of benefits to rain gardens. They do a lot to mitigate the toxins, the sediment that's coming out of our properties and into the local waterways, but they also add native plants, they add wildlife habitat, especially for pollinators and birds. They can be a beautiful feature on your property, in addition to a great way to capture and infiltrate stormwater. A standard RiverSmart rain garden through the grant program has to be connected to a downspout, has to be between 50 and 70 square feet of plantable area. It should be capturing between 300 and 500 square feet of roof area from that downspout that's connected. There's some other things to consider, including that it can't be closer than 10 feet to a foundation or retention wall. This is because those hold so much water. It can put a lot of pressure on nearby structures. Gotta be 3 feet from property lines, 5 feet from public spaces. This is because in a large storm, these gardens will overflow. And you want to make sure that the water has some green space to flow over to soak into before it goes right onto a sidewalk or a driveway. Can't be underneath a tree. As you saw in that original diagram, the gardens are really deep. So if you're underneath a tree and you're digging that deep, you are going to damage the roots of the tree. And we definitely want to avoid that. Got to keep the overflow away from the house. You don't want that water going back towards the property, getting into foundations, getting into basements. For the same reason it should not be the low point on the property. You also want to avoid any power lines or underground utilities. So that's why this isn't the right garden for every property, because there are those limiting factors. But where it is eligible, it's a great practice to include. So the rebate program for rain gardens. This is designed for kind of DIY homeowners or homeowners who don't want to go through the full grant process, go through the, applying with DOE, getting an assessor out there, getting the contractor assigned on the wait list, that whole thing. They just want to get right into digging the garden, doing it themselves. Or if you have a contractor that you're already working with and you just want to have your landscaper install it for you, the rebate program is a great option for you. A couple differences, mainly that the rebate is homeowner driven, whereas the grant, it's kind of on autopilot. We take care of all the background stuff. The cost is a little bit different. There's no copay with the rebate rain garden, but the amount that a garden is eligible for is based on how much stormwater it's treating. It's $3 per square foot of treatment area. So that's the roof, the sidewalk, the house, whatever's being directed, it's at $3 a square foot. And if the cost of the garden goes beyond that, that additional cost will be the responsibility of the homeowner. If you want to keep those costs low, you want to capture as much water as possible with your rain garden. This is a great illustration of a number of different ways water can be captured. You can see that the 2 downspouts on the house, or 2 of the 3, are being directed into the rain garden. So that's a lot of water from the roof. The garden is built so that the yard uphill of the garden flows down into it. So that's additional water. On top of that, A good portion of the water on that sidewalk is flowing off to the right here or left, depending on which way you're facing, and going into the garden. So this is getting water from 3 different places in addition to the water that's naturally falling into the garden from the rain. Installation can be pretty labor intensive, but it's not overly complicated. You kind of are digging out a garden, again, 18 inches of bioretention plus 6 inches of ponding depth. So that's a good 2 feet deep that the garden is being dug. You can see that in the second picture up here. We add some bioretention mix. That's a good mix of sand and compost to make sure that soil is nice and loose, doesn't get compacted, can hold a lot of water. And then you're planting it with native plants and putting in some spillway stones, some overflow. You end up with a really nice looking garden. As with all gardens, maintenance is essential to making sure your rain garden lasts a long time and is beautiful throughout the seasons. It's always important to water, especially in the first year, especially right after it's installed. Those plants can dry out really quickly, so stay on top of watering. After that first year, you'll still need to water in the hot and dry weather. Just because it's a rain garden, it's not going to get water unless it rains. So be sure to be watering frequently. Weeding, as with all gardens, that's essential. It's nice, loose soil. Anything nearby is going to try to drop seeds into that garden, and their seeds are going to grow like crazy because of how rich that soil is. So stay on top of the weeding. After a couple years, these native gardens can fill in with some dense coverage, which will be able to outcompete a lot of the weeds that are trying to grow in it. So a 2-year-old rain garden, grass from your lawn, dandelions, those might not be able to grow in the garden because of how much coverage there is. At that point, you want to keep an eye on the really aggressive invasives. Any vines or ivy, anything especially tall growing like bamboo or tree of heaven, those will still take a shot at your rain garden. So you do want to stay on top of that. And then mulching. Rain gardens don't require a lot of mulch. The more mulch you put into it, the less there is going to be ponding depth over time. So that's going to decompose and add material to your garden. So at most, we're talking about mulching once a year, and then removing the old mulch before you add new. You want to make sure you're removing debris from the garden to maintain that 6 inches of ponding depth. You really don't want it to fill in. Avoid any hardwood mulches, anything that's going to float, any wood chips, sorry. The shredded undyed hardwood is the go-to mulch. It's the cheapest option. There are no added chemicals. Definitely don't put anything with like pesticides or herbicides in there because that's just going to really mess up your garden.
Thanks, Jordan. My name is Savannah Lightcap, and I am also with the Alliance. I will be talking about RiverSmart Homes BayScapes today. So what is a BayScape? The technical term is also known as conservation landscaping. It's a practice that incorporates environmentally sensitive design, low impact development, and or native plants. BayScaping supports clean air, water, wildlife, and more beautiful and healthier human environment. What does that all mean? So when we break it down, a BayScape is filled with native plants. As Brendan mentioned, and Jordan also, these native plants have extensively long roots. These roots are going to tap down into the soil and create space for water to be absorbed versus non-natives and turf grass. Benefits of these native plants, they also reduce erosion. They absorb excessive stormwater on site, again, more so than non-native and turf grass. They increase filtration of nutrients and other sediments and items that are entering into the water, like pet waste and other things. They increase infiltration of nutrients, and then they also minimize watering as they become established into the ground. They become drought tolerant. They require little to no fertilizer and no pesticides. Also, due to the fact that they are not grass, they're going to be growing and beautiful. It's going to require a lot less mowing. And again, they're going to support wildlife and pollinators, birds alike. What is a BayScape? A BayScape captures water that flows across the yard, also known as sheet flow. whereas a rain garden will connect directly to a downspout. So this won't connect to a downspout typically, but it'll catch all the water that runs off of the rain garden as well as across the land. It is about 120 square foot of plantable space. Sometimes it could be a little bit larger. Again, it's going to replace grass with native plants. Those native plants are going to have deeper root systems, and they're going to increase stability. And again, they're going to be more drought resistant than turf. Here are some examples of how natives are going to help with stability and decrease erosion. As you can see, the photo on the left, the before photo, all of the water that was running off this sidewalk, or looks like a little patio here, ran across the turf grass, and eventually it all became eroded. As you see on the right-hand side, the after photo with the bayscape there, those native plants are going to grow really deep roots, and they're going to stabilize that ground. So as the water comes across it, they won't, all that mulch won't rush off into surrounding landscaped areas. It should stay in place with the plants holding it. Here is another example of a bayscape. As you see on the right-hand photo, this is a newly established garden on the bottom. The middle one is about 3 to 5 years after, and then the one on top is about 5 to 7 years after it's been established. As you can see, over time, this garden is going to require less mulch, less weeding as the plants start to fill in the garden and take over the space. So you won't have any as much invasives or weeds growing through. As you can see the photo on the left-hand side, this is on a slope. So again, those native plants are going to really grow deep roots, and they're going to help with erosion and create some stability. So again, anything like mulch and stuff will not rush off onto the sidewalk. Maintenance. As Jordan mentioned with the rain garden, it's really, really important to water and water heavily the first couple of years after the garden has been installed. After the first 2 years or so, water your plants regularly, especially during the growing seasons and hotter times during the summer. But then after that, the garden will be established and should require a lot less watering. Weeding as well. Again, as the garden fills in and the plants start to grow, they'll take up the space where weeds would normally grow, and so the weeding should be less. For the first 2 years, it is good to do the weeding done by hand and to clear them out to make sure that perennials can reseed. Long-term weeding should be focused on invasive species that will compete with perennials and eventually take over.
Thank you so much, Savannah. Yeah, so shade trees. I love talking about trees. Here's just an introductory slide of our crew doing what they love to do, which is bring trees to residents. And on the right, you'll see kind of the finished project of what happens the day of a tree planting. Next slide, please. So what is a shade tree? Brendan kind of already alluded to what it is, but it's basically a size class. It's a tree that when it's mature is over 25 feet. And we can kind of think about why we want that in the next slide. So there's a lot of benefits to a shade tree. And so being a bigger tree, there's an overall greater impact. There's more leaves, there's deeper roots. There's all kinds of things they bring to the environment. There's habitat for wildlife, there's improved stormwater management. Trees have the ability to reduce air pollution, which is a big topic in the city. A lot of people in kind of these tree deserts, there's higher occurrences of respiratory issues. And then also just like the effects of heat can really have a downgrade on individuals' health. For a resident's perspective, it can really cool down your house. And then for the city as a whole, it has a cooling effect with the urban forest. And then in general, I think it's important to mention that, living in the city, we're very kind of detached from nature, and having trees around really increases quality of life. And there's a lot of studies that show the kind of psychological value of having greenery around you. Makes you happier, and yeah, just gets you a little more in touch with nature. Next slide, please. And so here's a list of all the trees that we offer. As you can see, it's quite a bit, and you know, whoever is watching this is welcome to research them. But a good part of our consultation is kind of determine which of these trees is best for your yard, depending on site, drainage, just all kind of other factors. And I will say, while all these species are options, it is kind of like which one you'll get is dependent on our inventory. Next slide, please. And then just to get people excited about trees, I just wanted to talk about some of my favorite ones and that residences have really enjoyed. You'll see we have the swamp white oak, which is kind of my favorite one to suggest just because of their ecological impact. Also, as far as tree maintenance goes, oaks are pretty low maintenance. You really just have to kind of prune them in their first like 10 years and they kind of do their thing for the next 100 or so. If you want something a little different, I always recommend a bald cypress, especially if you have a really, really wet yard. They literally live in swamps and can survive in still water. And also they have these kind of like frilly needles that I think could add a really nice like aspect to a yard. And then everybody loves red maples, and that's kind of in the name. They have this really, really pretty fall foliage, and they're super fast growing, and they really help with kind of water drainage if you have a wet yard. And then we have the beautiful river birch as well, which people like a lot, particularly for that bark, which is kind of interesting in that it peels and it gives it kind of a 4 seasonal interest. It also has really nice fall foliage and it's a super grower. So if you're looking for shade fast, I always recommend a river birch. Next slide, please. And just here's a slide just showing a few examples of our plantings. I think it's important to note here just like kind of the caliber of tree we're planting. They come well over 5 feet usually. And on a private market, for somebody to come in and plant your tree and provide the tree, it's about a $500 value, which through this program, it's completely free. And I think that should be noted. Next slide, please. So you get this tree, what do you do next? It's super important to water the tree for the first 3 years after it's been planted. Here at KC Trees, we say 25 gallons, 25 to survive, which essentially means 25 gallons a week during the summer for each tree, unless it rains 1.5 inches. And this is just super important because unlike larger trees, smaller trees have a lot less water holding capacity. And so they can kind of get burnt out really quickly. Mulching is also very important. We provide the mulch initially, but just keeping up and making sure that mulch follows the 3-3-3 rule, which is you want your mulch to be 3 inches deep. You want a 3-foot radius around the trunk. And this last point is very, 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 very important. You want 3 inches of space right around the tree trunk. And why I say that's really important is in that picture in the bottom right corner, as you can see, the roots have kind of gone crazy there. And that's from not having the mulch away from the trunk. And essentially what will happen is 20 years down the line, when that tree might be looking very, very healthy, but its roots will actually garl itself if that mulch is up against the trunk. So just say no to volcano mulching is what we say. And then pruning. So for a tree, anytime is best to remove anything that's like, a hazard, is broken or disease or damaged for the health of the tree. But if you're going to do structural pruning and kind of shape the tree to your liking, and its further success, we always recommend doing that during the dormant season, which is about December through mid-March.
Hey everyone, thank you and welcome back. So this portion is on rain barrels, as you see here. So we're going to go through 2 different programs for the RiverSmart homes that have to do with rain barrels. So first, as a brief overview again, a rain barrel is a containment system connected to your downspout that collects rainwater. That collects rainwater from your roof to store in for later use. Some pretty good benefits is you can save some water, and you can also save some money, as you don't really have to pay now to water your garden or patio. And what's nice is that the water is really, really soft. It doesn't have some of the chlorine or fluoride that can be a little bit harder on the plants. Another benefit, of course, is that it reduces stormwater runoff. So it is really good for just sort of greening up your home. One quick thing, if you do decide to use the water from your barrel to water any edible plants, we do recommend that you wash them off, as the water isn't quite potable because it's coming right off your roof, and sometimes your roof can have bird poop on it. It has shingles. You don't really want to be drinking that. So just wash your edible plants really well if you are using it for your for a vegetable garden. So some components of the rain barrels. So there's the downspout, that is the vertical pipe running down from your gutter to the ground. There's the inlet, which is the downspout connection into the barrel. It often has a screen, sometimes it doesn't. The screen, which is super important, we'll really go into that later, is a filter mesh that keeps bugs, mosquitoes, and debris from entering the barrel. The screen can sometimes be in the inlet, but sometimes it can actually be found on the barrel. There's the overflow that is used for water to safely exit the barrel once it has been completely filled. It's often built into a diverter kit. There's the spigot, and then there's also the base, which is usually elevated about 8 inches above the ground. Base needs to be flat and level to have a safe foundation for the barrel. So there's two programs for the RiverSmart Homes Rain Barrel program. The first one that we're going to be touching on is what I like to call the installation program. So this one is the one that relies on your audit, and it will let you know what you're eligible for. There are 2 different types of barrels in this program. The first is the Riversides. It is the bigger barrel. It is 132 gallons. The co-payment is $50. The dimensions are about 5 feet tall, 3 feet in diameter, and it is quite sturdy, which is really, really nice because it should last you about 8 to 10 years if you do proper maintenance on it. When an installer comes to your home, you want to make sure that the ground is leveled and clear, like the picture you see down on the left. If you aren't quite sure how to level and clear it, you can also pay the contractor $20 to level and clear it for you. Then there's the other barrel that is on your right. That is the Hydra barrel. It also has a $50 co-payment. It's a little bit smaller, which also means that if you have a roof area that is over 500 square feet, we will actually not be recommending this barrel to you. You will default to the Riversides. This one will lie more against your house, and it is 4 feet long and 2 feet wide for use. It is also a little bit more fragile, so if you have a lot of garden space and are very into using the water, for instance, your tree, which I know uses quite a few gallons, like this would be a good barrel for you. But if you have a really small garden, you're not sure how to use the water, we would recommend going with the Riversides. But again, your audit will walk you through some of this. So in the assessment, when the auditor comes to your home, they will take photos of the downspouts that are eligible, and they will be put in the audit, so you know which downspouts will be best for a barrel. So here you can see the before and after photos. Barrel maintenance. Yes, all of our programs do have a maintenance component. So there is seasonal maintenance. There's one in spring. So that is, we're going to start using your barrel. And so the spigot should be closed and the barrel should be on collect. In winter, we don't want any water to freeze in your barrel because it'll probably crack. So you can have the spigot open. So in case any water comes in, it can also flow out. And depending on what diverter you're using, if it's the Riversides, it'll be a diverter box, and there's a little knob you can turn so that the barrel is no longer collecting water. It'll just go straight down your downspout. If you're getting a Hydra, it'll be a Y diverter, and there'll be a little toggle to the left or to the right. And the toggle will go toward, like if it goes toward the barrel, that means the barrel will be collecting water. If you toggle it to the other side, it means it'll be winterized and the barrel will no longer be collecting water. So the winter one is the most important part of your maintenance. You really, really do not want cracks in your barrel, especially if the barrel is right next to the foundation of your house. Another occasional maintenance that you should be doing is trying to keep debris out of your barrel. So we talked about the filter. Depending on, again, which barrel you have, you want to make sure you're emptying that filter either from the sort of sock filter that's in the Riversides, or there's like a basket filter on top of the Hydra. So anytime there's a big rainstorm, or if you have a tree right over your house or right over the barrel, you're going to want to make sure you're emptying that debris. You don't want mosquitoes breeding in there, and you don't want to clog up your barrel because it's really hard to get debris out of the barrel once it's inside. So for the rebate program, this is for folks who don't really want to wait that 6 months for the audit process to go through and waiting to connect to the contractor. This is for homeowners who feel they're really comfortable with more of a DIY approach to their home. So this one, you buy and install your own barrel, then you upload a rebate. Well, you go online and enter in for a rebate application. And you need to make sure that you have a receipt and then before and after photos of the installation. The rebate program is also not a complete rebate. It is $2 per gallon of water saved. So a 50-gallon barrel will rebate you $100. This does not include tax, shipping, or or any extra costs that may occur from, for instance, if your barrel doesn't come with a diverter kit, you will need to buy that, and we will not be able to rebate you on that. But it does mean that since you're getting your own barrel, you have a wide range of whatever market barrels you feel will be best for your home, either in terms of size or aesthetic. So here is a really brief rundown on both programs. So the installation part is we pretty much do all the work. It's all in your audit. The types of barrel you can get and where you can get it will be determined by your audit. It's a $50 copay per barrel, an installation, and a $20 preparation fee. Procurement and installation logistics of the program, logistics of getting the barrel is covered by the program. Maintenance for the barrel is the responsibility of the homeowner. The rebate program, again, is almost complete flexibility. It is DIY. You buy and install your own barrel and then apply for a rebate. And the rebate application is online.
Right. Thank you, Maya. And hello, everybody. Welcome back. I am going to go over permeable pavers. All right, so first thing to note is that there are kind of two routes that you can go with the permeable surface rebate program. You can go for what's called revegetation, or you'll sometimes hear it referred to as impervious surface removal. This top before and after picture is a really good example of what that looks like. So you're removing an impervious surface and replacing it with some kind of vegetation. The second route you could go is permeable pavers, which the bottom before and after photo is a good example of, removing an impervious surface like concrete or asphalt and replacing it with permeable pavers. What are permeable pavers? I know we went over this a little bit at the beginning, but they are a self-draining system of individual pavers. So as you can see in this kind of first photo on the left, we use what are called permeable interlocking concrete pavers, they look like regular brick pavers, but they have little tabs on all four sides where they fit together, kind of like puzzle pieces, and that forms the interlocking structure. And those gaps in between the pavers is where water is able to infiltrate down into the paver system. This cross-section detail I really love. You can see that the pavers really are just that top thin layer, and then there are multiple layers of subbase of different types of gravel underneath the pavers, and those subbase layers go about 10 inches deep. And then the pavers that you see on the top, they're right at the surface. So it's a pretty deep system. In total, it can be 12 to 15 inches deep into the ground, and that is what allows for so much stormwater infiltration with these systems. All right, some things to note about permeable pavers. As was said before, they're really good for patios, parking pads, driveways, any surface that you still want to be able to use as a paved surface, essentially. In terms of the RiverSmart Permeable Surface Rebate Program, the minimum project size for permeable pavers is 100 square feet. The pavers must be installed by a certified contractor. This is super, super important. We do have a contractor list that is available online. All of the contractors on that list have been pre-approved and pre-vetted by the RiverSmart program. Other contractors are able to install pavers, but they have to show us a certification, a permeable interlocking concrete paver certification. So if you have any questions about that, definitely feel free to let me know during the application process. Also, all projects must pass a percolation test. That is just to ensure that the pavers, once installed, will have the infiltration capacity that they should. And then all projects need a downspout to be connected. So whatever downspout from your house or a building on your property is closest to where you would like to have permeable pavers, we'll typically have that downspout redirected. It actually goes underground into the paver system. You can kind of see that in this picture off to the right. The downspout will be redirected underground and into the middle of the subbase gravel layers of the permeable pavers. And then something to note also with this photograph on the right is that permeable pavers are really easy to combine with other RiverSmart practices. So you can see here, there's a rain barrel attached. So that downspout is going through the rain barrel. The barrel is collecting as much as it can. And then any overflow from that barrel in this particular case is going down into those pavers, which this is a permeable paver driveway. And as of right now, the rebate is $10 per square foot, up to a maximum of $4,000 per property. Revegetation, again, here's a lovely before and after photo of a really large project. Revegetation is a great option for folks who have a really long driveway that they don't really need anymore, a parking pad that you don't need anymore. In this case, it almost looks like a parking lot that the homeowner didn't need anymore, and they want to revegetate that for their pets to be able to use or just to have more green space on their property. The minimum size for these projects is 200 square feet. And in terms of vegetation that you can use, it can really be almost anything. Most projects will see sod or grass seed. You can also use different plantings or even trees, which is, again, another great way to combine this rebate program with some of the other RiverSmart practices. Something else to note is that you can do a combination between revegetation and permeable paver projects. I'll use this photo on the right as an example. They happen to replace the entire project with sod, but if they wanted to keep maybe one parking spot, they could have replaced half of this concrete area with sod and half with permeable pavers. And that's perfectly acceptable with the rebate program. We love projects like that, and we calculate the rebate based off of that area. So revegetation is rebated currently at $5 per square foot, up to the same $4,000 maximum per property. All right, benefits of permeable pavers and revegetation. Permeable pavers are available in many different colors, many different shapes. You can kind of see these photos. These are a bunch of RiverSmart projects that have been installed over the past few years, all different colors, all different shapes of bricks. You can really kind of design it however you want, similar to any type of paver area. They're also very durable because of their interlocking structure. They are really good under vehicle traffic, anything like that, where they're kind of getting some pressure on them because they're able to move around individually as opposed to concrete or asphalt that might be a little bit prone to cracking over time. Like all these other practices, permeable pavers and revegetation reduce flooding and erosion. They promote groundwater recharge, and overall, most of all, perhaps, they reduce impervious surface in the district. Maintenance. Maintenance is super important. General upkeep is going to be the biggest it's going to be the most important task of all these. So people often think that permeable pavers come with a ton of maintenance that can be pretty pricey. That can be true if regular upkeep isn't performed. So this regular upkeep is really, really important. DOEE has a great set of maintenance videos available on their YouTube channel. That's what the screenshot is from. So general upkeep includes sweeping the surface of the pavers. That's really important, especially during the fall time, during any sort of maintenance work, because the gaps in between the pavers is where water infiltrates into the ground. If those gaps become filled with leaves, grass, mulch, any sort of organic material or debris, then the paver system can clog, which that's where it can get potentially a little bit pricier to perform maintenance. So keeping the surface of the pavers clear of any sort of debris is going to be really one of the most beneficial things you can do. And it's pretty easy to do that regularly. Cleaning out the filter. So on that downspout that I mentioned that is redirected into the pavers, there will be a filter similar to the filters that Maya was talking about. For rain barrels, there will be a filter with a lid, and all you have to do is lift up that lid and take out anything that has been caught in that filter. That will also be really important to keep the paver system from clogging. Weeding, you will occasionally get little bits of grass or weeds growing up in between the pavers because water and sometimes soil and organic matter is getting in between those pavers. So regular weeding is obviously still important to keep that system from clogging. And then also filling in the gaps in between the pavers. So I didn't mention this earlier, and I'll mention it here. The gaps in between those pavers are filled with little gravel. It's the same type of gravel that is in one of the base layers underneath the surface of the actual pavers. It's little crushed gravel. And that is what fills the gaps in between the pavers. And so especially for parking pads or driveways where cars are constantly driving over the pavers, those little gaps filled with gravel, or it's called joint stone, that will need to be replaced over time. You can get that joint stone at Home Depot, Lowe's, most garden centers, anything like that. But when that gravel gets low, that will need to be replaced. And then if that general upkeep is done, then you're all well and good. Every few years, you may need to vacuum or power wash the surface of the pavers. Again, replacing that joint stone. After you have vacuumed or power washed, that will displace a lot of the stone that is in between the pavers themselves. And then replacing pavers as needed. As I said, they're super durable. None of them should really crack at all for many, many years after the first installation, but replacing those as needed to make sure that the system is infiltrating stormwater as it should be. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about the rebate application process for the Permeable Surface Rebate Program. I do want to stress that it is separate from the application to the RiverSmart Homes program in general. There is a separate application for this rebate. So you can apply for the Permeable Surface Rebate Program whether you have received a RiverSmart Homes assessment or not. You don't have to have one in order to apply for this rebate program. So there's a separate application. I'll show that on the next slide. Actually, I have a couple screenshots. You'll submit that application to the Alliance. We review it, and then we will schedule a pre-construction inspection with you. And that is just for us to go over the project design. We'll measure your impervious surface, so whatever you're trying to remove, and we'll just ensure that the project that you have set up with a contractor meets all the RiverSmart requirements before construction actually begins. Because construction, as I said, like it's pretty deep. The demolition can involve a lot, and with 12 to 14 inches of excavation, it's a pretty involved construction process. So we want to make sure that your project is set up to meet all of the RiverSmart requirements and receive a rebate before any of that starts. Once it's past the pre-construction inspection, you and your contractor are free to go ahead and install the project. Afterwards, there is a project completion form that is submitted to the Alliance as well, and then we will come do a post-construction inspection. That is the final step. We just make sure the project installed looks good. We make sure the pavers are all settled and they're infiltrating properly. And then that is the last step before we are able to issue you a rebate, and we send that check to you in the mail. So you'll get it in a few weeks after that final inspection. Something else I want to note with this rebate process actually is that through this rebate program, you're able to select whatever contractor you would like to work with. So that contractor list that I mentioned earlier, you are free to request quotes and contact as many of those contractors as you see fit, until you select one that you would like to work with for this project. So you have a lot of freedom in this case for choosing the contractor that you are most comfortable working with. So here are a couple screenshots of the application, just so you can see it. I do want to emphasize that the Permeable Surface Rebate Program is currently closed to new applications through the rest of the 2023 calendar year. It will reopen in early 2024. But here are a few screenshots of the application requirements, just so you can see this first page on the left. It might be a little bit small, but it has your contact information, the size of the project, the contractor you're working with. And then this second page is the itemized invoice sheet. So we do request some information about the costs of the project. These projects can be more expensive than the other practices, I will say. Permeable pavers run about $25 to $35 per square foot at the current point in time, and revegetation is typically about $5 to $10 per square foot. We require before photos of the project area, and then we also require design sketches, which is what you see on the right-hand side here, a before and after sketch. It can be done by hand. It doesn't need to be anything fancy, but just to help us visualize the area that is going to be removed and the area that is going to be installed.
All right. So once you've become a RiverSmart Homes property owner, you're welcome to join our RiverSmart Homes Ambassador program. These are community members in wards 7 and 8 who are providing stormwater education to their neighbors. One of the goals is to increase participation in the program. So to get your fellow neighbors on board, and also to serve as a community liaison between the residents in DC and the RiverSmart program. So we actually have one of our ambassadors here today, who's gonna introduce herself and provide a little background on her participation in RiverSmart Homes. So I'm gonna hand it off to Ashley.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ashley, and I live in the Ward 7 area, and I have several practices installed on my property. I currently have 2 shade trees, a rain barrel, as well as a double BayScape. I applied for the program back in 2021. I had my barrel installed in towards the end of 2021, and then I had BayScaping and shade trees placed on my property in about March or April of 2022. So the process can be a little bit long, but I think it's well worth it, especially when you get the results and start seeing the results. I was just telling them when I first had it installed, it was kind of like a couple of sticks that were in the front yard, but I'm now in my first full year of having my BayScape installed, and it's really bloomed since then. I don't know if we want to get to the next slide.
Yeah, the next slide will
I don't-
hit the arrow.
Sorry. Okay. So this is my property. The first before picture is before I had anything installed. And I basically just had a grassy area. And I wanted to kind of cut down on some of the mowing that I was doing in my front yard. So the second top picture, that's the installation date. And like I said, it was kind of just looked like a couple of small bushes and sticks for the first couple of months. And then by June, I started to see a couple of bushes and flowers growing. But then this summer, the last picture on the bottom right, that's this summer, and I'm not sure if it's fully grown in, but it was pretty full this year.